kids. Welcome to Grow with Miss Nancy. I'm so glad you came back this week. Remember last week we were talking about how Adam and Eve disobeyed God, and they actually, I didn't tell you this last week, but they were forced out of the Garden of Eden, and as a matter of fact, there was no way they could go back. So here they are in the world, and God wanted them to multiply and to reign over the world, so they multiplied, and they had a son by the name of Cain, and then they had a son by the name of Abel. And these two boys were very different from each other. Very different. Cain was a farmer. He loved to grow plants. He loved gardening and tilling the soil and making plants grow, and that was fun for him. Whereas Abel was totally different. He was not really interested in plants. He was interested in being a shepherd. And so he took care of the sheep, and he was out in the fields with the animals, and he just loved animals. And you know, we all can be different. You may be different from your brothers and sisters, what you like to do. But these two boys were very different. When it came time for harvest, there was time then for sacrifice. And what God wanted us to do was to bring our very best to Him as a sacrifice, saying that, I love you, God. You are the most important thing in my life. And this is what I'm willing to sacrifice for you, to show you it's like giving part of your life to God. That's what we do when we give money, and it's a sacrifice. Your parents work, and they give the first fruits of their income, and they tithe. It's 10%, and they give that money to the church because they're really giving it to God. It's a sacrifice. Well, that's what these two boys were doing. Only problem is that Cain didn't really have the right attitude. He wasn't doing this as love for God, showing you that how much I love you and that I'm giving you part of my life. He just brought some plants, some crops. Whereas Abel had a totally different attitude. His attitude was, I love you, Lord. I want to give you the best of what I have. And what I have are sheep, so I'm going to give you some of the very firstborn lambs, and how wonderful they are because you made them, Lord, and I just thank you for them. Really different attitude. Well, God accepted Abel's sheep as a sacrifice, but He didn't accept the crops that Cain brought. And that made Cain angry. Remember, he had the wrong attitude to start with. And God said to him, Cain, why are you angry? You know, the real words are, why do you look so dejected? You will be accepted if you do what is right. But if you refuse to do what is right, watch out. Sin is crouching around the door, waiting to jump on you. And you've got to subdue it and be its master. Cain didn't want to do that. Cain didn't want to subdue sin. He was angry, and he wanted to be angry. And he was dejected because he wanted to be dejected. And he was jealous of Abel. God accepted him, and He didn't accept me. He wasn't thinking about the why. He didn't think about his attitude. You know, our parents tell us our attitude is real important. But Cain was not thinking about that. He was just mad. And so one day he said to Abel, hey, let's go out in the field together. And they did. And Cain killed Abel. Later, God came along and He said, where's Abel, your brother? And he says, I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper? And God said, his blood cries out from the ground to me. What did you do? And essentially, God told him, because you have committed this sin and you are not sorry, and you are not asking for forgiveness, and you are not repentant at all, you don't have the right attitude. I'm going to make it so you can't grow any crops. You're just going to be a wandering nomad. And Cain said, he got really afraid. He said, if some other people see me, of course they would be his brothers and sisters, they might try to kill me, because when they find out what I've done. And God said, I'll put a mark on you that will keep other people from harming you. But that's your punishment. God still loved Cain. He wanted him to repent, but Cain had the wrong attitude. Well, what kind of attitude have you got? Have you got an attitude that your parents have cautioned you about? Will God need to talk to you about your attitude? It's something to think about, isn't it? You know, we could be created differently, but that doesn't mean we have to be jealous of other people. We should rejoice if they're having good things happen with them. We should be sad with them when they're sad and happy with them when they're happy. But that doesn't mean that we're going to be wrong acting. I want you to think about that, okay? Don't be like Cain. Be like Abel. We could be different from each other, and God made us be different for a purpose. But watch your attitude. Well, I'll see you next week. Bye.